All right, welcome everyone. My name is Wesley Rothman. I teach in the English department, but primarily in the writing, rhetoric zone. I'm here first and foremost to welcome you and to welcome our illustrious department chair, Dr. Boyce Davies.
Welcome, good evening, and it's such a joy seeing such a lovely audience, beautiful students and faculty all here. So this event is significant for many reasons. It's one of the department's oldest lectures, and I was looking up Charles Eaton Burch just before coming out here, because I think sometimes we walk into spaces without knowing who preceded us, and this is somebody really significant that you should know about. He was chair of the English department here for 15 years. He offered the first course in Black poetry at Howard University and is therefore one of the people who actually founded the field. So what we want to make sure that you and the audience, and we have this being live streamed, so we have a larger audience out there, to know that we are reclaiming that we are the place. This is the university. We are the place for any kind of study of African diaspora literature is broadly defined, and we want you to seek us out for that. Check out our faculty, know that our students are doing amazing work and keeping the tradition alive. Another important fact about Charles Eaton Burch is that he was born in Bermuda, and I did not know that, so I'm really happy to find out that he has a sort of larger African diaspora history and connection. So our department, the Department of English, in parentheses, Literature and Writing, because we're in the middle of a name change, is pleased to announce that we have created a really wonderful social media set of platforms, and we want you to follow us. This is the information here, but we are available on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel. So we want to make sure that you're following us on our social media pages. We also are involved now at the start of creating a really amazing fundraising platform, and our person who is helping us out with that, Latrina Webster, please wave, is in the back, so try to find her. If you have money to donate, or if you have a really amazing funder, send them to her. We're going to be happy to meet that person and find ways to increase our relationships with them. So we want to welcome you again, and I'm not going to stay very long, but just to say that Charles Eaton Burch actually was here in the 1920s. I did not know that either. So this is somebody who precedes us in all kinds of ways. And we are happy that we can celebrate a literary ancestor and an African diaspora ancestor as well, as I have indicated as well. I'm really pleased. I've been with Alexis in several different formats, and she knows about and I know about. So I'm really happy that she's here for this important lecture. And I'll turn you over to our colleague. I thank him for organizing this lecture, Wesley Rothman, and the Charles Burch Committee, Memorial Lecture Committee, for the work they have done to put this together. Welcome again.
Welcome again. Here is history and herstory. Howard carries a mythic heft, as I think we all know. And it's exciting. And I was watching the many tour groups walk around earlier today and over the last month. And I think sometimes we forget, or we don't know, I think as Dr. Boyce Davies was saying, all of that mythicness, that heft and importance and community that preceded us. And some of the reasons are clear by the presence of our guest today and her work, Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs. She is the author of The really astounding Survival is a Promise, The Eternal Life of Audre Lorde, an archival, biographical, poetic, essayistic communion with Lorde's life and work. Dr. Gumbs has also written the sharp and invigorating Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals. In addition to a poetic trilogy, this was really exciting. When I'd heard of her work over the years and had read pieces, but to see this trilogy take shape, published by, sorry, I have my notes here, Duke University Press. The series is most recently Dub, Finding Ceremony, M Archive, After the End of the World, and the first installment was Spill, Scenes of Black Feminist Fugitivity. Dr. Gumbs is an accomplished editor, a fierce community and arts advocate, and an empowering intellectual and writer. Some of the other reasons for Howard's mythos are made clear when we just dip a little bit into the community connectedness and creativity of this place's not too distant past. And so if I may share some excerpts from Survival is a Promise, The Eternal Life of Audre Lorde. It reveals a small yet very significant part of that history. In May 1978, for the first time ever, there was a panel specifically about Black feminism at the National Conference of Afro-American Writers at Howard University. The event was packed. Ever since coming out as a lesbian, Audre had not felt safe or comfortable in that space, a place mostly curated and controlled by overtly homophobic and sexist Black nationalist men, but there she sat alongside a crew of Black lesbian feminists who were there to support Barbara Smith while she presented her essay toward a Black feminist criticism. June Jordan moderated the panel and presented her essay, Where is the Love?, where she lifted Zora Neale Hurston, also a Howard alum, or former student, as a model of writing beyond protest and toward a loving Black community. Elsewhere, Gumbs pulls together the richness of relationship among Rosie Poole, Audre Lorde, and Leroy Jones, later Amiri Baraka, another Howard former student who almost graduated, but not quite, for reasons that you can find out in the book and elsewhere. Poole was a teacher at Howard and a Dutch Jewish teacher who loved Black American poetry and who at one point I learned taught Anne Frank in Amsterdam before the war. Taught at Howard in the 1960s and edited the anthology Beyond the Blues, selecting poems from Lorde and Baraka. You can feel the tenderness and fierceness of Baraka and Lorde in relation to Howard in your own copy of Survival is a Promise, available in the back thanks to Sankofa Books. Here is care and compassion and kindness. More still, an excerpt. Essex Hempel had first found his heart connection to Audre Lorde's work through his freshman year of college, 1975-76, when he took a Black women's literature class at the University of Maryland. The class attended a session at the Black Writers Conference at Howard University, specifically to hear Lorde's poetry. 20 years later, he told her about his experience that day. Quote, "You read Power, one of the most incredible poems I've ever heard. From the soles of our feet to the tops of our crowns, the energy of your convictions and music stirred us, all of us in the audience, to rise to our feet. I've never forgotten that reading, Audre." Or maybe this is Audre's full circle moment, realizing that as she raised her voice to speak about police violence and the death of a young boy in a homophobic Black cultural nationalist space, she was unknowingly speaking life into a future Black gay male warrior poet, a thin teenage student just a few years older than Clifford Glover. Here is community, connection, kinetic energy. here is survival, thriving, holding each other and each other's together. In following an intricate weaving of the dynamic among literary and humane giants June Jordan, Audre Lorde, and Audrey and Rich, Gumbs reflects, "Sometimes I wonder if the typewriters Audrey and June used to correspond with each other and the rest of the world were manufactured by Brother, a company that, like some other typewriter manufacturers, also made sewing machines. What do we stitch together with our words? And where is the factory, the machine called Sister?" Alma Thomas's painting, shared on the digital poster for this event, Breeze Rustling Through Fall Flowers, was part of a series she created for a retrospective exhibition here at Howard University. It is currently held and on view at the Phillips Collection over in DuPont Circle, so maybe you go there sometime soon and see it. And just as Audre Lorde proclaimed, anger is loaded with information and energy, we must remember, and I imagine Lorde would agree, that love too is loaded with information and energy. Welcome again. Thank you for coming. Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs.
Thank you all for being here. There are a couple seats. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if y'all want to come up to the front. Okay, well, while you do that, would you breathe with me? Yes. I got one yes, okay. So, just 3 breaths, and do whatever supports you to breathe. That might mean putting down something you're holding. It might mean stretching. That's what I'm doing. And I'm going to say inhaling when I'm inhaling and exhaling when I'm exhaling. You can match that, or you can breathe at your own pace. Just notice your next 3 breaths, okay? Y'all so quiet. Okay. Inhaling and exhaling. You even breathe quiet. Inhaling and exhaling. One more time, inhaling. Maybe a loud exhale. Okay, I'll accept it. So my name is Alexis Pauline Gumbs. I'm so honored to be here. It is actually surreal to be on this sacred ground for so many reasons. And the last time I was here, I was actually in another room in this building doing some of the research that I included in Survival is a Promise, my biography of Audre Lorde. So the gratitude is unending. So many admired colleagues here, and I'm happy to see everyone's face. And also, every space we come into, we bring those people who are not physically with us in the space, but who are with us in another way. And so I'm dedicating my talk today to my grandfather, Jeremiah Gumbs. He memorized the poems he loved. He was the person who taught me to love poetry. And since I'm going to share some poetry with you, I think he would love to be here. He also had the same birthday as Audre Lorde, so the universe is a poet. And I want to invite you to dedicate your listening today to someone who is not physically in the room, but who maybe is a part of your heart, your mind, your thoughts today, your reason for being here. Somebody who you want to send whatever good energy happens here to them, or maybe somebody who you need to get some good energy from to be here in the way that you want to be here. And they could be someone older than you, someone younger than you, someone the same age as you, someone who's living now, someone who lived before, someone of any species. Just not someone who's in this room, including you yourself and every age of you. And the prompt is to be specific. So not all my people or everyone inside of this group, but really a particular being that you're calling into this space, okay? Okay, so please turn to someone sitting near you and tell your neighbor who you're dedicating your listening to. Go. About 30 more seconds with your partner. And folks in the back, there's 3 more seats up here if you want to come sit down. Okay, please say thank you to your neighbor. So, as our esteemed colleague, Dana Williams probably knows, once upon a time, the great Toni Morrison, also Howard alum, gave advice to the writer A.J. Verdell. A.J. Verdell was like, what should I share with the people? What should I share with the people? And the profound insight of Toni Morrison was, talk about what you have there that the booksellers are selling. Very wise, very pragmatic, very in alignment with the acquisitions editor's thought process. But I'm not doing that today because my next book, which is coming out in September, in case anyone wants to add it to their syllabus, still time, faculty, is about someone who's really important to the history of Howard University. And yeah, so I thought it was appropriate because this is the Charles Eaton Burch lecture, lifting up somebody who 100 years ago was a first for Howard in terms of teaching about Black literature, that I would lift up Alma Thomas, who was the first graduate of Howard University in fine art ever. And she was, there she is. She was the founder of the first art gallery for students in the public schools of Washington, D.C. She was the first Black woman to have a solo show at the Whitney Museum. And she was the oldest sister of 3 girls. She's best known today for her bright earth paintings of plants in motion, stunning views of fields of flowers, as if someone who loves color is zooming by above. Born in 1891, before the invention of the airplane, she eventually made space paintings like this one. Space paintings inspired by televised views of our solar system, another view of the heavens. When Alma was a child, before she and her family left the land of Georgia clay and mob rule, shout out to Ida B. Wells, for the increased opportunities of Washington, D.C., one of her younger sisters, Fanny, died of diphtheria, a disease of fluids transmitted through droplets holding bacteria. Today, diphtheria is rare in the United States because of vaccination, but when Alma Thomas was growing up, the transmission of these particular bacteria through a sneeze or a cough or from a surface could be deadly for a child. More deadly for Black children whom a racist healthcare system routinely denied hospital care. When Fanny, a little girl named after her grandmother, died, the entire family must have been devastated. Maybe, as the oldest sister, Alma felt she had been granted custody of Fanny's soul, an assignment to remember her well, a continuing connection. Grief often also moves through the release of fluid substances, tears, snot, the vapor of ragged breathing. Or maybe if you are an artist, you create a ritual. Maybe you would use earth to make a replica of your little sister in her Sunday best, bow in her hair, a knowing smile. Maybe you would shape the clay with your hands, glaze her carefully, and keep her beside you. Alma Thomas slept and dreamt next to a ceramic bust she made of her sister Fanny throughout her entire adult life. It was actually her first work of art. Maybe sister is a job that simply does not end with death. When I think of Alma Thomas, who taught art for over 30 years at Shaw Junior High School, I think about the education Fanny did not live to receive. I think of a devoted teacher working overtime, creating enrichment activities on weekends, working diligently on the Negro History Week committee, creating unprecedented art access in the DC public schools, providing guidance, care, and collaboration to children the age Fanny never reached. When I think of Alma Thomas painting rushes of color, bright from the perspective of one flying above, I think not only of a woman whose life moved from what she called the horse and buggy era to the age of aerodynamics into the space age, but also of a small angel's perspective, what Alma would have wanted Fanny to see. In the most vivid of Alma Thomas's paintings, I see Fanny's heaven, lovely with the care an older sister might offer a little girl who didn't get to grow up. Or maybe it was Fanny who taught Alma about perspective in her dreams. I'm not saying that Alma Thomas's every painterly or pedagogical choice was made with Fanny in mind, or that her status as an older sister and mentor to so many DC artists and Howard University students meant that older sister was a primary identity for Alma Thomas like it is for me. But if we center Fanny's eternal youth instead of the dominant art market's tendency to center itself, we may learn something new about living, longing, and the generative pathways of sisterly love. Once upon a time, H.E. Mahal asked 4 Black artists, including Alma Thomas, for their approaches to inhumanity. That's a direct quote. The idea was to see whether the work of Black artists could address in some way what the Scottish poet Robert Burns called man's inhumanity to man. What survives is Alma Thomas's deflection of the terms of the interview. She said, "Through color, I have sought to focus on beauty and happiness rather than on man's inhumanity to man." She recentered her energy, clarified her focus, beauty, happiness. I forgot what's next. Okay, there we go. Beauty, happiness. The full interview has all but disappeared, but the quotation appears almost everywhere Thomas's work is displayed or discussed, almost as if to give permission to a predominantly white set of viewers or institutions to enjoy her vibrant use of color without thinking about color's cruel calculus in a racist world. But what beauty? Whose happiness? The question of who the primary audience is for Thomas's work, including both the paintings as artifacts and the process of her life as practice, could shed a light on her primary aims. Regina A. Perry, one of the first African-American women to attain a PhD in art history, did not include that ubiquitous quote in the profile on Thomas's work for her catalog, Free Within Ourselves, African-American Artists in the collection of the National Museum of American Art. Perry, who was also the first African-American person to serve as a guest curator for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, begins her section on Alma Thomas with a quote that includes these words, quote, "Light is the mother of color. Light reveals to us the spirit and living soul of the world through colors." End quote. The spirit and living soul already exist. And then comes the birth of color at the speed of sun. I am here for the revelation. In 2022, noted lesbian feminist photographer Joan E. Byron mentioned that I should see the new Alma Thomas retrospective, Everything is Beautiful, while it was on view at the Phillips Collection here in DC. But I missed it. When I learned that the exhibit was showing at the Frist Art Museum in Nashville, where I went a few months later to honor the retirement of crucial Black feminist theorist and teacher Hortense Spillers, I knew I couldn't miss it again. My partner, Shangodari, who by the way drove us all the way here, hi, and thank you. We would spend a morning there, I thought. But when I saw the scale of the paintings, the depth of the research, the philosophical wonder of Alma's view of the world, not to mention the replicas of her fabulous outfits and her brightly appointed living room, I knew that I would need to spend more time listening to what her work was teaching me. I couldn't stop wondering what it meant for a Black woman born in 1891 near Columbus, Georgia, in a small place called Rose Hill, at a time when color was used to enforce a deadly racial code, not that that time is over, would become the greatest color theorist in the world. That wasn't the lesson of a morning to mull over during lunch. It seems a lesson for many lifetimes. So I never left. I created a ritual. I bought the catalog at the Everything is Beautiful exhibit in Nashville. Then I went home and ordered all the materials I could find by and about Alma Thomas, including a calendar. And then, for the 365 days of a full calendar year, I started every morning, first light, looking at either an image of an Alma Thomas painting, an archival photograph, a study, or a sketch. And I'm happy to share that Alma Thomas's archival papers, which are here at the Smithsonian, are also completely digitized, so you can look them up from the convenience of your phone, just in case you get inspired. And every day, prompted by these paintings and these artifacts, I wrote poetry that startled me, astounded me. It wasn't until I'd written for a whole year that I finally read back over what I'd been writing. And I still don't know what it is. A partial index of my childhood associations with color, a testimony of the taste of being in love, a listening space for Alma to whisper her dreams into the present, a psychedelic record of a year where nothing made sense and yet life shone so brightly I wanted to remember it. And what if Alma Thomas's primary audience is a Black girl who did not make it? Fanny means the free one. Where are all the free versions of ourselves left back in the dirt of our becoming? What can they teach us? Even though I still don't know how to categorize what I wrote in my year of Alma, it's my job to orient you to my offering as much as it is my job to remain free beyond my own categorization. I don't know what you're going to hear when I share some poems with you. I don't know what you'll see in an abstract expressionist painting. But this is what I might do if I had the honor of curating Alma's works and archival traces on gallery walls, but then also freeing them from all structures at the same time. What else do I want to tell you? I'll tell you everything. So each section of the book, just pretend like you didn't see that person. In each section of the book, the book cover is somewhere in this PowerPoint, but you'll see it later. It's a ceremony. So I've offered guideposts that signal where I am in my unfolding understanding on why Thomas's life and work continue to teach and transform me. The unfolding is not over, but I didn't want to wait to invite you into the ceremony. Following Thomas, I'm working with contrast and resonance. I'm working with reference and departure. You'll learn about Alma Thomas through the work, but it's not primarily a study of Alma Thomas. And it's not an explication of the value of Black abstraction and color theory. The primary purpose of the work is to exemplify a practice of intimate time travel, impressionistic memory, gratitude, wonder, and care. My prayer is that you will find new ways to wonder about yourself. new colors of possibility, but especially new or renewed questions about relation as revelation, about accountability and devotion across loss, about beauty as an ever-present choice. A method, not a given, but given to us again and again. Throughout the work, I experiment, like Thomas, with repetition. There are palindromes and pantoums and free verse poems and block poems and multiple rhyme schemes. You don't have to already know that you're a student of poetry or a student of painting to engage the work, though I did list all the images I was viewing, so you can go look at them too. My most important invitation to you is to do what Alma Thomas did with Black DC and what I did with Alma Thomas's work. Stay. Stay and notice what comes through. Notice where you travel, where you find yourself, when you close your eyes, where you open. When Richard Powell, one of the most influential theorists of visual art in the Black diaspora, was a wide-eyed MFA student here at Howard, or in his sardonic self-description years later, he would call himself, quote, a young, clear-eyed critic striving for objectivity. He wrote a review of Alma Thomas's 1975 exhibition here at Howard University. His celebration of Alma Thomas's color paintings may also have been an early critique of other forms of art. We got chairs up here if anybody wants to sit down. I see at least 4, just so you know. Powell, the student, the Howard student, knowingly reviewing the work of the first graduate of the very department where he studied, knows that objectivity is impossible for himself or for any of us. He praises Thomas for her choice to, quote, forego the unreal objectiveness of details and detached photographic realism and dive into what we see and feel. But he also notes that she moves away from what he calls the mundanity of Impressionism. Instead, she, quote, cornrows and parboils it. She, quote, aerates the ground as only a native Georgian can and places growing colors in it the way one plants vegetables and fruit in a backyard. The young Powell prefigures the way that Kelly Jones contextualizes Alma Thomas's experimentalism years later. Jones says, a relative of Amiri Baraka, by the way, Jones says, Alma Thomas saw herself surrounded by creativity from an early age, from her mother's use of color as an expert seamstress to her extended family's planting and working of Southern soil. For both critics, Thomas's roots in and continued connection to the very tangible arts of clothing and feeding people do not contradict but enable the experimental approach that Jones will call Afrofuturistic. When Powell describes Alma Thomas's color fields as cornrows, he brings to mind 2 linked references at once. Fields of the North American continent's most abundant plant, and a beloved and infamous African diasporic hairstyle, cornrows. Never merely descriptive, Powell's choice of words is also referential. In the first sense, cornrows, like other agricultural fields in the United States, share a colonized kinship with the African laborers forced to toil under captivity to generate the vast fields of monocultural crops that continue to define US food systems. In the second sense, cornrows, a time-intensive hairstyle of close braids and patterned open scalp, have been criminalized and forbidden under racist labor codes post-emancipation. But in his positive review, which asserts that there is liberation available to a viewer who chooses to engage Thomas's paintings, he uplifts the brightness and nourishment in her parboiled but never overcooked images. Powell does not mean for the reference to cornrows to offer a mere lament for labor. We sense a reclamation in Thomas's paintings and Powell's love for them. Or, let me forego the pretense of objectivity. I feel acclaim. I feel loved. Do you? Cornrows constitute living archives of sisters and sisterliness. That archive includes my hands in my sister's hair, unbraiding it at the end of the summer, my own patience sitting between the legs of my sister friend Kara as she parts and flat twists my hair before our college graduation. The cornrows gracing the heads of people around the world at this moment are mostly the artwork of a diasporic cohort of feminine workers who either offer their craft to people with whom they are in intimate sisterly proximity, or with clients to whom they offer their services. Sometimes the line between sister-friend stylist blurs. Sometimes in the shops staffed by African women and patronized by African American and Afro-Caribbean people in cities in the United States, a strained and severed sisterhood across diasporic difference reveals or rejects a longing for tenderness among the tender-headed, the tender-hearted, the tense. I would suggest that all of these braiders are modeling the work of sistering, the generative challenge of the closest simultaneous interfaces of similarity and difference. John Maurice Thomas, Alma's younger sister, who usually went by Maurice, and lived in the same Washington, D.C. house with Alma their whole adult lives, practiced parting, styling, threading work as an archivist and curator of her older sister's work and legacy. Her institutional choices of where to place certain artifacts, Smithsonian, for example, and especially her penciled notes on the backs of pictures and event programs clarifying Alma's presence and achievements, have the tight, gentle touch of a person accountable for giving an intimate witness, a close deviation from her own life. Alma Thomas, who lived inside the practice of sistering and lives today as a result of that archival and curatorial care of her younger sister, becomes related to and different from generations of braiders. Her bright brush strokes and the spaces between them, Powell suggests with his cornrow reference, do not only beckon our minds, they open up our crowns. When I first heard Malcolm Peacock's voice, he was running, his words punctuated by the need for breath, ragged and reaching like the closest view of the spaces between Alma Thomas's applications of color. In his recorded reflections while running, the reach for breath shapes the insights Peacock shares about life, love, racism, intimacy, and Hortense Spillers, among other topics. We feel the breath that disrupted and enabled each articulation at the same moment. When I actually talked to Malcolm on the phone, their voice was steadier. They were sitting still and explaining how these days they were walking from Brooklyn to Harlem every day, past Teachers College, where Alma Thomas got her master's degree in teaching, and I think basically invented an arts integrative approach, but that's a whole nother lecture. Past Teachers College, up to the Studio Museum's transitional studio space, where Malcolm was applying their mother's living room cornrow technique to the task of braiding together a redwood tree. Malcolm texted me a photo of their studio floor covered with packets of hair extensions and noted that their marathon braiding sessions kept them up in Harlem in vigil with countless African hair braiding establishments, finishing one or two last clients late into the night. As far as I know, Alma Thomas doesn't have a painting of corn in particular, or of the redwoods, where Malcolm Peacock once ran a last-minute marathon while fearing for his Black life. But her paintings do evoke corn in their patterned multiplicity. We could think of her color paintings both as fields of corn in rows and of each ear of corn, kernel after indented kernel, holding close and sweet. The heirloom Cherokee corn I helped grow and harvest at Tierra Negra Farm, near our home in Durham, North Carolina, does what Alma does. It places different colors in tight kerneled relationship to each other across a field of possibility. When we shuck the corn, we are surprised by each ear because no pattern is the same. This one has bright purple blue, magenta, maroon kernels alternating. This one has all purple and one white. Most of them look like an autumn rainbow, but never the same rainbow twice. The cornrows of an Alma Thomas painting both look like the infinitely diverse ears of native corn and hold the ethic of the indigenous context of corn that is, again, sisterhood. Just as Alma Thomas's paintings exceed the monotony of agribusiness conformity in their movement and flow, corn on this continent is meant to exist in mounds as part of the Three Sisters indigenous planting system. As Potawatomi scientist and poet Robin Wall Kimmerer describes it, corn is the oldest sister, sprouting up first out of the ground, followed by the second sister, the beans that climb the corn stalks encircling her, and then the sprawl of squash leaves and squash flowers sitting on the ground at their feet, skirting them both, filling in almost all of the available space between mound after mound of earth, each about a square foot wide. Alma Thomas reveals herself as kin again, not only through her grandmother, Fanny Simmons, a South Carolinian woman of African, Indigenous, and European heritage, but also in practice, offering mark after mark in the tradition of the indigenous farmers who create not merely furrowed linear rows of earth, but constellations of mounds, so the three dimensions of the intertwined plants can fill the space, feed the people, nourish the land, open the earth to the lessons of rain. During a conversation I did not directly witness, my old friend, Ashan Crawley, who makes paintings that are the remnants of his embodied sound work in the tradition of Black Pentecostal breathing, told my new friend, the world-building critical writer Sophia Samatar, that his paintings, records of what happens on the floor while he moves in the sound and spirit of transforming a homophobic tradition into a vessel of queer possibility, were not landscape paintings. And in the sense of the colonial optic of landscape paintings as a form of domination and ownership over living space, of course they aren't. But Sophia offered a corrective that Ashan included in one of the letters in his book, The Lonely Letters. That's a book recommendation. The Lonely Letters by Ashan Crawley. The letter is about what landscape can be. And I think Sophia might know, since she writes books with maps in the beginning so we can find ourselves inside the world she's created and populated with her own reflective imagination. Sophia said, Ashan's paintings are landscapes in the sense that they invite the maroon questions. Can I shelter there? Can I get in there? Can I stay there for a while? Sophia calls this landscape from the inside because it's about inhabiting a space. I would add that it's a vulnerable form of inhabitation. There's need and precarity there. Ashan explains that in his painting practice, he's trying to get back into, to shelter within, the sound of the Black church, his community of aesthetic origin, a homophobic community that excluded him, even while he, as a prolific church organist, was providing the context, the sound of that community's being. Can I shelter there? Can I stay? Was Alma Thomas a maroon? She was not housing insecure. She lived her adult life in a house close to here that her parents purchased and that she and her sister inherited together. She was gainfully employed as a teacher, an active and respected member of her church and community. If we think of Alma Thomas as a maroon, we have to imagine her marooned in time. What if the achievement of being first is simply the consistent pattern of arriving where no one expects you, of enacting things no one has found a name or a use for until you insist? Thank you, Charles Eaton Burch. What if Alma Thomas, marveled at in the New York Times, the New Yorker, and the Washington Evening Star as an old, new, young artist, after retiring from teaching and having her fame at the age of 74, was marooned in age? Alma's painting teacher says that in her arthritic last days, she would cry out, "Oh, if only I had a body." When she went to Howard University Hospital for what would be her deathbed after her final surgery, she brought her paints with her. What if Alma Thomas was marooned in space too, committed to uplifting her Washington, D.C. community while longing for a Georgia she returned to most frequently in paintings? Marooned in the early dream of a world where her students could live with dignity, a world safe enough for her sister Fanny to have had the equal medical access that would have allowed her to live through her childhood into adulthood. What if Alma Thomas's paintings are imagined landscapes where the movement of air and the movement of time creates a maroonage, a free place, where linear time loops back, where a girl from the horse and buggy age can travel to the moon and Mars without leaving what and whom she loves behind? What if the vulnerable question of shelter is a question about whether she can access her dead baby sister's heaven? Can that space hold her? Does it still hold their relationship? And can I get in there? It could be a question about seeking to reach a sound, a feeling, a possible world beyond our undoing. Can I shelter there? It could be a question about what will hold me. Can I stay, at least for a while? It could be a longing across impermanence. It could be my question each time I am faced with the full and open world of Thomas's paintings. Can I get to the world that her work implies? Can it hold me? And what does that work have to say about the world I see when I reach, when I'm vulnerable, when I close my eyes and remember there is a landscape inside? Thomas's work, often inspired by her own garden and the gardens of others, or fields and seasons and the emergence of flowers and the changing of leaves and images of outer space, are all spatial and temporal. They are about time and space, but they do not fix a given space in time. They offer repetition and difference. They offer proximity and contrast. They offer the phenomena she witnesses, the freedom of presence. They cultivate possibility. They create a possible encounter between Alma Thomas and a viewer. This viewer, any viewer, between an image Alma Thomas blinked inside and a future in which dead Alma Thomas is a presence. They create a possible encounter between a living Alma Thomas and her sister Fanny, who was already pure spirit and also, therefore, between modes of encounter. What is at stake in my encounter with this work? Consider Rick Powell's description of Alma Thomas's orange glow during his series of Mellon lectures at the National Gallery. I've totally forgotten what's on the thing. I'll leave that. That's not orange glow, though. It's so beautiful, his description. It's like a spell. He names the harmonious optics of the primary, secondary, and tertiary color choices, and then remarks on the points where they bust loose. He riffs on the, quote, radiant and vibrant connotations of the title, Orange Glow, and how orange, a minority color in the painting, modifies the prioritized glow of Thomas's intuitively placed colors, suggesting that the orange colors in the painting also, quote, transform everything in their orbit. He keeps going to the cosmic, understanding that the glow referenced in the title and enacted in the painting, quote, not unlike sunlight, envelops nature and civilization and covered Thomas's gritty inner city neighborhood with brilliance and optimism, end quote. He branches out to her other paintings of flowers and nurseries, her documentation of, quote, planet Earth's chromatic responses to the seasonal and atmospheric cycles. Rick Powell is a poet, I'm just saying. He quotes the Black British Guyanese artist Frank Bowling on color as line and applies Bowling's observation that incorporating line between the colors introduces clashes, quote, wherever the colors meet in a confused passion, end quote. As a Caribbean immigrant to the United States, Bowling knows of what he speaks. To the United Kingdom is where Frank Bowling immigrated to. Powell continues emphasizing again, quote, abstract cornrows, plait-like gestures, the light and energy generating ideal, the passion and confusion that happens when I see you in a different light. I don't think that I will ever describe Alma Thomas's paintings better than Rick Powell already has. Not even a 1975 student at Howard, Rick Powell. Certainly not a Mellon Distinguished Lecturer, Rick Powell, but thankfully I'm not trying to. Alma Thomas and all the artists I've named here, Powell included, are all in the midst of transforming a deadly encounter, the genocidal colonial encounter, the earth-killing monocultural agricultural domination, the reproduction of property through landscape painting, the reification of art as property through art criticism. I think Powell's approach here and elsewhere points us in a liberatory direction. My encounter with Alma Thomas's work wants to do this too, but my mode is different. Instead of describing the work and then describing it better, or more pointedly, instead of demonstrating mastery or conferring mastery upon the artist, I have to risk freedom. I have to confront sameness and difference. I have to confront what I mean when what I want to be the same is different, and what I wish were different reproduces itself and stays the same. I have to be transformed by how I see myself and lose myself in you. I have to risk another form of knowing. I have to refuse to master, goldenrod, aster. I have to refuse to daughter, dirt, water, rain barrel, cistern. I have to become related alongside you, woven with you, unraveling too. I have to sister. If I were to attempt to describe Alma Thomas's 1973 painting, Jonquils, that's this one, in the mode of art critical inquiry, I would try to find words for that exact yellow. Is it goldenrod, or should I not use another flower to describe a flower? Is it a gold yellow, a light infused yellow? And then I would seek to tell you how the strokes of color meet, crash into each other, crowd each other, embrace each other in some places, overlap and darken each other in other places. And they could look like scattered grains of corn from some angles. But to me, these brushstrokes mostly look like living beings moved by wind. And in the end, I'm too awestruck by how she's infused the inert with movement to say anything else, except maybe, death, where is thy victory? Segregation, proffer your concession call. And so in the end, I am not at the end. I am moved beyond my lifetime. I am opening into the sistering relation of crowding or embracing. I should know. As a sister, I should know what you are thinking. And as your sister, I will also never understand you. The decoloniality is that this relation remains a question, not a relation of domination or reproduction, but of accompaniment or betrayal, solidarity or judgment across something and something else. I wonder about you. I lean back and look again. What does a sistering relation or the loss of it make possible? I continue in wonder and build a room to ponder the motivation of a genius who has created not only a work of art, but transformation of what work even is, or could be, or could become in the face of death. And for whom? The question is, can we stay here? And the answer is no. And the answer is yes. And this is the poem that I wrote for this. Does anybody in here have a sister, or are you a sister? Just raise your hand. Okay. Sister Tech. I am pounding out a field of gold with a horsehair hammer. The interface I use to build this, our cosmic computer, with a horsehair hammer and the light of memory, our cosmic computer creates a circuit between worlds, and the light of memory, and your unforgettable face, and a circuit between worlds, your hand to my hand, and your face behind my eyelids, and all the flowers are your hands. Too soon they freeze and die. And oh, the flowers become my faith. Too soon we pound the earth, break into gold. Okay, thank you for your listening. And we have like 15 minutes, right, for questions? Okay, great. I have a certain way that I want you to do these questions, okay? So if you ask a question, let me know who you dedicated to earlier on, or make one up if you weren't here at the beginning, someone you're dedicating your participation to, and tell me what you're wondering. Maybe it's around sistering, since a lot of you have a sistering relation. Maybe it's around a different form of relation that you're in, relationship to a school, a job, other people, love relationships, whatever that is. And then also tell me a number between 1 and 11. Okay, those are all my instructions. Now, if anybody would like to ask a question, there's a microphone right here.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I do sincerely apologize about walking out when you were talking. I made an obligation to, I work for the Howard University Museum. We
Okay.
had a, I forget her name, but I made an obligation to speak to her at 4:30 exactly. So I didn't mean any disrespect.
And you
by
came
you.
back.
Yes. So I just want to clarify that I do apologize.
Oh, I'm just glad you're here.
Yes. But, so I have a background in art history from Morehouse College. What role do you feel as though the younger generation, so Generation Z and Alpha, can play in historic Black preservation? And what do you think that curators can do now that they haven't done already? My aspiration, I'm an African Studies major, first year Masters of Arts students, and I want to become the director of an African American museum.
Beautiful.
That's my ultimate aspiration. Thank you.
Yeah, did you, can you say your name, and did you make a dedication earlier? Or
I'm sorry.
could you say your name and the name of somebody who's not in the room that you also love?
For personal reasons, I don't want to identify who I.
Okay.
It's just very personal for me. But my name is Harlem Daniel Henderson.
Nice to meet you. And a number between 1 and 11.
8.
Great. Okay, so this is for 8. So this is inspired by Alma Thomas's painting, Three Wise Men, which she painted in 1966. It's acrylic on canvas. It is owned by the Harmon and Harriet Kelly Foundation for the Arts in San Antonio, if you want to track it down. What the wise ones said, so you can reflect on this in terms of the future of preservation. What the wise ones said: all of us women, held in pieces by our clothes, standing on the cobbled gravestones of our names, and the light pink world around us, a shattered sunrise shaded, what we did to our eyes looking for stars. We are blood, we are rain, we are gold, bow before us, standing tight and close against the cold. Once upon a time, there was a drum. It woke us. Once upon a time, there was a barn. We found it. Once upon a time, there was a night. We broke it with our gifts. I think that's exactly what I want to say. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Fumi Coates. I'm a student here at Howard in the English department. I would choose the number 9. And I was just wondering about the art museum in Nashville. I was just in Nashville volunteering through alternative spring break. And I had the opportunity to go to the museum, but my group decided not to. I was very disappointed. So I was wondering like more details about that, because at some point I plan to go back, and I was wondering when you saw that exhibition and everything, because I didn't quite get the details.
Okay. And who did you dedicate your participation to?
Oh, my participation. Well, my professor alerted me of this event, so I guess my professor, Adelusi Adelu.
Okay, great. 9, yes. Okay, so you know, the exhibit is not there in the Frisk Museum in Nashville anymore. The Alma Thomas retrospective, it was several years ago. But it is touring and it is traveling, and there is a really beautiful catalog from the exhibition that has beautiful essays in it, and you could check that out. So this is 9. It was inspired by an untitled watercolor on paper by Alma Thomas, also from 1966, which is in the collection of James and Kelly Hall. Alma speaks of loss. Once upon a time, there was a world in wolf's clothing, a monster eating my beautiful world. Or, when I realized that we would not get not even one flower out the garden, not even one stem of grass to keep and take with us when they ran us off our red clay land, I learned something about color that I refuse to now abide. Yeah, thank you for that question. Where's the book? Another question? Yes.
Hi, my name is Snowden Jackson. I'm a second-year English major, concentration in creative writing, and a playwriting minor. I dedicated this, lecture event to my great-grandmother, who is no longer with us, but she was a poet herself. I have a small book of her poetry, and I've been told stories about her, like, as a storyteller. And I think that she really would have liked something like this. So my question is, how do you differentiate like poetry that you write for yourself and poetry that you plan to share with the world? And is that a distinction that you make?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. And a number between?
6.
6, okay. Okay, 6. Yes. And this is inspired by a painting called Saint Cecilia at the Organ, Etude in Brown, that Alma Thomas painted in 1962, and which is part of the Christian Levitt collection. It's called Organ. I am small, and the world is red, and the sound is tall, and I bow my head, and the world is red, and the habit's white, and I bow my head in the blessed light. And the things we do without knowing why, in the blessed light of the falling sky, without knowing who we were born to be, when the falling sky set our breathing free. We were born to be, while the largest sound sets our breathing free in the smallest round. So to me, that answers the question, but to say it explicitly for you, and your ancestor poet and yourself in your writing, it is a distinction I make. Everything I write is for me, and then some of it is for us, you know?
Yeah.
And that question is actually a really important part of the creative process to me. And so this book does not have 365 poems in it, right? Like, I wrote 365. And in each of those poems, I was in the practice, which I believe is a sacred creative practice, of being in relationship with the work and being in relationship with whatever vibration is coming in my relationship to Alma Thomas, like what she's teaching me. But some of them were just for me. And it was reading and rereading and thinking and reading them out loud and looking at them again that was like, okay, but some of these are actually for us. And then I have to decide, how do I offer them to community in a way that can be the ceremony that we need to have. And then I take responsibility, because whatever I put into this community, right, I'm responsible for that. I I know more about what that responsibility is and what that discernment is actually from the writing that I do that I don't share, right? So all of it is very important, but if anybody has control of my estate after I pass away and really wants to make a bunch of money off of unpublished writings, I'm gonna make it really clear the ones that were for me and the ones that were for us. So thank you for asking that, and blessings on all your writing. Yes, Victoria.
Victoria Moulton, PhD student in the English department, soon to be literature and language. Joanna Priest is who I am bringing with me into this space. And my number will be 4.
Okay.
My 4 sisters. Well, three sisters, but we make 4.
You are 4.
My question is, I'm hearing a lot of ecological knowledge coming through in your work. You look at the intersections of artistry and ecology. What has informed this practice for you?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Okay, first the poem. 4. For you and your 3 sisters. This is from another untitled painting that Alma Thomas painted in 1973, but it's also sometimes called Study for Fiery Sunset, which is another painting she made. Aside. I used to wonder if the shadows knew something they weren't telling me. And if I could just be quieter, I would hear what they whispered to each other. Turns out, I could. In time, I did. That's right. I can. Okay, so so that's that. I think that is actually it. The intersections of art and ecology. And this is part of why Alma Thomas's work resonates with me so much. It's like there's really not a separation, right? She's looking at the world and this is what she sees. And this is how she honors that witness. And Alma Thomas created in the Shaw neighborhood in DC, she created something called the Beauty Club because she wanted Black children to be able to see beauty, like to understand how to see beauty in themselves and each other, in our community and everywhere that they went. And I think about that, like that practice of what is it that the patterns, the ecological interrelationships, what is the beauty of that and what is that teaching me? So yes, you could say that I'm always at that intersection, but I think it's because in my experience, I really don't see those things as separate. It takes a lot of creativity to honor and witness what's all around us. And I'm just trying. Thanks for that question, Victoria. And thanks for taking a break from your qualifying exams to come to the event. Congratulations, you're almost done.
Hi, my name is Shasha Haynes. I'm a freshman here at Howard University. I dedicated this to myself because my teacher is right here. He told me to come for extra credit, so I came.
You did this for you, okay.
Yes.
And your grade.
Yeah, yes. But I will say, like, as like you were speaking, like it was obvious to me, but like not as obvious, but I wanted to ask, like, is there like a spiritual element to your work? Because I could tell that like you might like believe in something. I'm just trying to decipher, so if you could. Oh, my number is like 6.
Oh wait, we did 6 already.
Okay, 2.
Great.
Yeah, but I want to decipher, like, is it there?
Yes. Okay, and here's the poem for number 2. I'll say more words too. Okay, so this is inspired by Alma Thomas's painting, which you can actually easily visit, Nature's Red Impressions. She painted in 1968. It is part of George Washington University's collection. The Luther Brady Art Gallery has it, so if you want to visit, let them know. I call it a red blues for Alma. I glue my mosaic to the world of skin, all my sacred broken pieces to the smooth world of sin. Blood my vitamins, earth my kin, fix all my sacred longings to the racist world I'm in. My morning, my noonday, my impulse to begin, every jagged inch of knowing about the place I've been. Strawberries, peaches, cough syrup, gin. I smear my liquid memories, brush and start again. My royal bloodline, my exiled swim. I sing a torn libretto steady in the blue-eyed din. Mustard seed belief, Red Sea open and thin. The songs of 7 million in a dented tin. Cloudless sky and fertilizer blend. I'd give all my burning memoirs for a peaceful when. Trafficked road, open glen, eventually the shattered sister wins. So that's a red blues for Alma. And yeah, there is absolutely spirit in it. And I if I could describe it simply, I wouldn't have to write all these poems, right? So I'm, trying to get at it, but I think that whatever is there in the belief that Alma Thomas had, that she could be in relationship with her sister after her sister died as a child, is the same energy that allows me to believe in everything I believe, like to believe that I could be a student of Alma Thomas even though she passed away many years ago, or that we could actually be in relationship with this planet in a way that's life-giving and not destructive, or that everything I don't understand won't stop me from loving my community. Those all require faith, and I would say this is a key part of my faith practice. So you absolutely were deciphering what you deciphered. Great question. Okay. I think this is our last question.
Yes. Well, good evening. My name is Jalen Bame. I'm a junior history major, poli-sci from Del Minor, from Dallas, Texas. And I do have 2 sisters. And I want to dedicate this to 2 women. First, my Professor Green. I don't know if she's still here, but she brought my class this event, and my mother. As a film minor, I'm a script writer, so I enjoy writing scripts and creating worlds of my own. And your poems are very beautiful, and I want to know when and how, because as writers, we can write from our heads but never publish. And how did you decide to publish without knowing that maybe critiques of your poetry or what people may not understand and attain from your poetry the way you do? How did you decide to just go ahead and just release it for the world to see, despite that in a conflict that may arise?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. A number between 1 and 11. What did we do? We did 2, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I'll do 11.
11. Perfect. Because this is the last one. That's a really, really powerful question. Okay, this is the one especially dedicated to Howard University. So it was inspired by a poem called Wind Tossing Late Autumn Leaves, which Alma Thomas painted in 1976, and it's part of the New Jersey State Museum collection. So if you're from Trenton, you can visit it there. Oya in autumn. From the crowd, the people scatter, the people fall, the people dance. In the fall, we become light. We become red, yellow, and brown. The air picks us up to dance. Oh, yes, to dance. In the dance, we become fallen. We be folly. We be fellow fallow fools. In the fellowship, we lose it. We learn what we never needed. Let it leave. In the loss, we let our backs go, watch our shoes slip, lose the only bones we know. In the knowing, we are naked. We are losing who to be and what to do. In the being, we are knowing what we not. In the unknot, we are loose. We are loose, free of tree, free of noose, free of use. So there I was trying to imagine a freedom, like freedom to be in our creativity even beyond understanding what the use of it will be. And I think that's an important part, and with your earlier question also, of what it is to be in our practice, right? But then, of course, when you're thinking about something, and if it's a script, right, it's supposed to be part of a whole thing that happens, right? The film, and you got to have the equipment, and you got to have the team of people, and you got to, I mean, maybe some scripts you could do on your own, but I know you're writing scripts for major productions. I know that because you're a Howard University student, and you know, we have the legacy of so many great filmmakers, Kathleen Collins, who came here and taught film master classes, and of course, Haile Jarima, and so many people. So I think there are circles and circles and circles of sharing. So my first audience is always me. As I was saying earlier, I read everything out loud. I really ask myself, how does it feel? Where did it land? Did it land anywhere? How does this actually feel to me? And then I share it with my closest person. My partner, Sean Godari, here is the person who is always the first person to hear things and is conveniently to me an also incredible artist, also a filmmaker, and who is the best editor ever. Has the way of being generous, but also asking the question that's like, well, what if this? Or what about this part right here? You know, like drawing attention in a way that's loving, and that it's never a question of whether I should be doing my art or not, right? It's a question of where are those places of curiosity and where could the journey continue to go? And so I think that community relationships of care, a first layer of sharing that is generative in that way, where we can be vulnerable, because it is very vulnerable to share our art, is really important. And sometimes it takes a while to find or generate that community, but I think that that's been a really important part of my process, and I'm really grateful for you. Thank you all for these beautiful questions, for your beautiful listening. And end of September, this book will be out. Pre-order campaign starts soon, so I would be especially excited for those of you who are part of the Howard community to bring Alma back here in your practice and in your hearts. Thank you.
Alexis, can you take some pictures with students up there?
Let's do it, yeah.
Thank you. Students, let's get up there.
It's a historic moment. It's a great moment. All the time it's returning. Exactly.